presented by allaccessretail.com. Welcome to Conversations on Retail. Join Mike Grain as he sits down with Gena Morgan, Vice President of Standards for GS1 US, to discuss the role of GS1 in on-shelf availability. Let's get started.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Grain, back with another version of on-shelf availability. Can't talk, it's Friday. Sponsored by Conversations at Retail and the University of Arkansas Supply Chain. We've got a return guest, Gena. Thank you so much. Gena Morgan with GS1 is back. Gena, I understand we are the only thing standing between you and a vacation.
Yes.
So we're going to be very, very, very efficient with our time here and just hit the highlights so you can get packing and get out of town. But for those of you who don't know Gena, why don't you go ahead and unmute and introduce yourself to the audience. You're unmuted.
Okay. Hi, I am Gena Morgan. I am the Vice President of Standards at GS1 US. I've been in that role for about 4 years, but I have maybe 3. Who knows? What is time, Mike? But I have been around GS1 in the development of industry standards for 25 years now. And prior to that, I was a retail kid. I grew up in retail. My parents were in retail. I started my career as a merchant in a department store retailing. And so it's just pretty much been my life. And back when the computer became a thing, just kidding. Not that old. I transitioned into systems and efficiency and supply chain. So it's been just a tremendous pleasure working in the field, trying to solve the problems of retail.
Well, 25 years, that means you were involved probably in the very early days where we were literally trying to create standards of how we were going to electronically transmit purchase orders and invoices and all that stuff.
Indeed.
Yeah, I was on a call yesterday with Matthew, who's on your team, and I started making references to when I first started working with P&G and Walmart. We did all of the business of those two great big companies via fax machine.
Yeah,
and that was one of my first jobs, is to move that to EDI, and the standards were being developed and in a consistent way, and it was a lifesaver, because otherwise, if I'm Walmart, I've got 1,000 different suppliers. I got to communicate all with them differently. That doesn't make any sense. So huge help. So standards and the focus of this channel has always been just kind of on-shelf availability, getting product on the shelf for the customers to buy. So obviously things like EDI create standards, but we've also got standards for other things, such as how do you actually produce a barcode, a label. And we're going to get into this later, but we're celebrating the 50th year of the barcode. We're also introducing that, just like everything else, we're looking at continuing to grow that. So tell us a little bit about how standards really impact and really help us get product on the shelf for customers.
I will, if you don't mind. I'll take a step back into my beginnings as an apparel merchant just for a bit. But it truly was when I was an assistant buyer. They were just starting to roll out that UPC code. And so that was probably mid-90s. Mm-hmm. So a little less than 50 years ago. But and prior to that, you just kept stock of what was in the store by an SKU. And so you really couldn't track what inventory did you have, what did you need, you couldn't even track sales you could track it by SKU, but you couldn't do color, size, all the things that you want to track in order to be able to have maintain your inventory accuracy and things like that. So I have been there from the beginning. It's called Floor Ready Merchandise Initiative. And I was there at the beginning. And here I find myself now driving those industry initiatives forward. So that barcode that you spoke about, that began 50 years ago to make checkout more efficiency, has evolved to manage inventory, to do things like that. And it's evolved into things like serialized identification, which gets you even more granular on about what's in your store. Consumers are now demanding a unified, always on, always open shopping experience, and retailers, marketplaces, brand owners, manufacturers, all the folks involved, Mike, are seeking ways to keep pace and grow. And standards really are important for interoperability which leads interoperability is essential to have solution choice. So what I choose to operate my business may be different from what you choose to operate your business. And we can compete on what those solutions look like, but standards bring it all together because they can now speak to one another. So it really, you could think about standards in a way that don't deal with retail. And that's how we talk on the phone with one another. That's how we surf the internet. All of those things are important in keeping things connected, and standards are at the heart of it.
Yeah. When we think a little bit about just the invention of the UPC, and it was during my early days that I kind of said that too. If I remember correctly, the primary driving factor for coming up with that is they didn't want to have to price sticker every single unit, right? That was the driving factor. It was really more of an efficiency play. But just talk to us a little bit about what are the other things? I mean, once we go, okay, well, yeah, now we don't have to, we can just scan it. We don't have to literally key it in every time. But some of the unlock of how we leverage that UPC, you mentioned being able to track sales. I don't think they ever thought about that. What are some of the other things that people, once it was in place, all of a sudden said, well, if that's in place, we can use it for the following things. Do you have some other examples of what that would look like?
Yeah, inventory management is the big one, right? And you hit on it. Prior to that, like you knew what you sold by going and counting it on the shelf at the end of every night. So there's total efficiency, sales, volume, the success of a promotion, anything that that what the barcode unlocked was, I mean, it's just masterful actually when you think about it, and how it evolved commerce. But that automatic identification that you can get from a single scan, depending on what data stream you're feeding that, has done a lot of things. It's made the supply chain more efficient. We moved from just putting the UPC code on a product to using different identification, but similar barcode symbology to track shipments and containers and ships. And so that really just unlocks the visibility of the entire supply chain. Now, have we perfected it? I mean, I think the pandemic would point to maybe not, because now, but that's really what the next evolution of identification and automatic data capture can unlock, is being able to see and divert and move and respond in a much more dynamic way than we've been able to.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue, because what we're talking about with this Sunrise 2027 is something that, frankly, we've been doing at retail for a while. We just didn't call it that. It was called radio frequency identification. The RF part is how we actually capture the information. The ID part was always the identification. I have a prop here. So I've got this bottle of Windex. It's got a UPC quant. And today we can go, this UPC, I've got 10 of them, right? But I can't distinguish this one from the other 9. They all look the same. You guys are really kind of leading the way from an industry standpoint, which is much better than the industry needing it and you guys not having it. You guys are doing a really good job of saying, we need to uniquely be able to identify and track these individual units, okay? Yeah. Why would we need to do that? Because, hey, UPC quantities worked forever. Why do I need to be able to track, whether it's this or a television or whatever, why do I need to be able to track an individual unit level?
A few reasons, and you can serialize. There's different forms of serialization, right? You can go to a batch or a lot number, which is still not a very specific instance, like you talked about with the 9 distinct instances of Windex. But you can go to a batch lot, and what that gives you is, I don't need to pull every bag of potentially contaminated produce. I don't want to name any particular commodity, but at batch and lot, when you know that, you can then zero in on maybe there's an incident or a problem with something. And so that granular identification helps you pinpoint and understand things like that. Serialization gets you to a finer level of granularity. And so now I can track a specific instance of a television set. I can count them with radio frequency identification. That's a requirement. So the reader, you can be hands-free and I can count. I can wave a magic wand and I know that I've got 10 things there, unique things. Without serialization, I don't know if I read 10 distinct things or I read one thing 10 times. So that's where serialization and that fine level granularity unlocks a lot of different technology, but also a lot of different use cases. I would say that speaking to where the consumer is headed, the consumer wants more information about the thing they're holding in their hand. And to do that, that granular level identification is also extremely valuable because one thing might be manufactured in different places. So it looks the same on the shelf, right? But it actually might have come from a different part of the world because they're manufactured in different parts of the world. But maybe that matters to me. And so having that granular identification will allow me to link to the specific information about that instance of the thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Mike?
Great example. Great example. I give you one more that I've used with several retailers because specifically when people are looking to get their on-hand accurate so they can take care of their online customers, that's usually a big thing. So we got to get our inventory right. Well, I've given this example before, but let's just say I have 3 of these television set, a specific television set. If I have 3 in the building, I may or may not have 3 to sell.
Correct.
What do you mean by that, Mike? Well, one of them could be on the back wall showing customers how they work. That's in the building, but it's not available for sale. One of them could have, hey, we've got to open it up and we're playing a video on an end cap somewhere. Again, that's in the building, but not available for sale. And one of them could have been a customer just returned it because there's a problem with it. So they took it from the returns desk. They've got it back in claims to evaluate whether it's sellable or not. Well, the reality is my on-hand is perfectly accurate, 100%, but I have none available to sell.
Yeah.
Today, I can't distinguish those. With this serialized information, I can literally say number 1, number 2, number 3, not for sale.
Brilliant example.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Yeah. So
BOP's collaborative inventory intelligence technology is helping many retailers and CPGs such as Colgate-Palmolive, PepsiCo, Coty, and Duracell avoid lost sales, markdowns, and spoilage by streamlining their next-gen collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment process. Learn more at bops.ai.
So what's GS1 done about this? So we know that the serial identification has always been in the RFID platform, but there's not everything makes sense from an RFID standpoint. So you guys have come up with this new set of guidelines, and I'll have a one-pager on the screen that will just show it. And we're going to later, we'll show after we get done talking, I'll show the GS1 John Phillips video is what I call it, which talks about that. But talk to us about the whole idea of, you guys have called it Sunrise 2027, not sunset. We're not sunsetting anything. We're sunrising a new capability. Tell us a little bit about that. What drove that? Where are you in the deployment stage? What kind of adoption are you seeing? Just anything you want to share with us about that topic.
Yeah, sure. So I'll go a couple of ways here, but just going back to the OG barcode, the UPC, it has done a tremendous job of doing what it was supposed to do. And it did actually more than that, as we've talked about, but its original thing was to go beep at the checkout and give you a price.
Yep.
And now we live in this age of a connected consumer. The explosion of digital access to content is a key element to remain competitive. You just got to do more, and that product's got to tell a story, both to the consumer and to the supply chain, frankly. So that barcode that we have now, that we know and love, it can only carry an identifier. You need finer granular identification, like we talked about. It could be the batch lot. It could be a serial number. And I just want to be clear, you might not be serializing fast-moving consumer goods where they go super fast down the line. That might not make sense now as technology evolves. I think one day, yeah. But still, you have that capability to do that with what we call a 2D barcode. Whether that's a QR code or a data matrix code, which is just a slight difference. We won't get too nerdy here, Mike, but a 2D barcode can carry more information. It can carry the serialization. It can carry an expiration date. It can carry a lot of things that can now be automatically captured through a scan. 1D barcode can't do that. The UPC code can't do that. You have to link to a whole bunch of information about it, and you still can't get to things like the expiration date and that sort of thing. So first and foremost, we need to know more about the product. We need that product to tell us its story. And so you need a data carrier that has the capacity to carry more data in it. But more importantly, you need that to be web resolvable. And so our standard GS1 Digital Link is the standard that takes a number, the UPC code, plus some additional numbers, the batch lot, the serial number, the expiration date, and transform that into a web address. So now I can link to the story of that product. And that resolvable identity can link you to things like certifications and claims. It could link you to country of origin. It could link you to a number of coupons. It can promos, whatever you want to do. So you could bring in the consumer to give them an experience, but you can also satisfy their desire for more information about that product. All at the same time being able to go beep at the checkout, just like the UPC code does today. So there's this convergence of things where it's granular identification, web resolvability, links to other data about that product that work together through a series of standards that tell that allow you to tell that product story.
I've said this before. If there's one good thing that came out of COVID, everybody can use their phone to order food at a restaurant. Everybody knows how to do that. Nobody knew how to do that before. So what you're basically doing is you're putting that kind of capability, that happens to be a QR code, but that same kind of capability for every item, I can go look and find out a lot more than just what the item is, right? Where it was manufactured, any potential health hazards, or does it contain peanut butter or whatever those things happen to be. From a consumer facing standpoint, I've become a lot more educated about the products I'm buying.
Yeah, that's for sure. And the thing is, like, there are QR codes on products today. You can go pick up any, I probably have something on my shelf right now, right here. Here's a QR code on a box of something. And that will take me to likely the product page that the brand wants to send me to. You dug into what that is. It's just a web address. Right. When you use a standard, and it's a proprietary web address that brand put in there, when you use a standard that also incorporates the UPC code or the UPC code in the lot, then that allows you to tell the story about that lot or that batch or whatever of that box of crackers. And then, because the identifier is in there, you could do all the supply chain processes that our UPC code did. And that's really the importance of moving to a 2D barcode. It allows you to put more data in the code. And so that then allows you to tell a deeper, richer story. And it also can then allow you to create to manage the supply chain processes that have always been done and that we talked about earlier.
How about food? I'm just going to play this all the way out. I am standing in front of a whole bunch of bananas. Can I pick up a set of bananas and scan that code and tell me what the life history, when was it picked, when was it wrapped, because bringing home bananas or strawberries that get moldy the next day, et cetera, never is a really good experience, right? So is that kind of information available or potentially?
It absolutely is. And I will admit and be perfectly transparent that there are some produce companies who have a QR code on it today that tell you where it came from. What farm was it produced? The difference here and where we're moving to is you can combine that. Once you use the GS1 Digital Link standard, you bring all of that together. So I now don't need a UPC plus that QR code. It all comes together in one code. So I could tell that story. I could tell where those strawberries were farmed, and I can check it out at the cash register, all in a single code.
Wow. So let's talk about the actual transaction part of that. I go to the register. Today I'm scanning basically my 1D barcode, right? Mm-hmm. And it just looks up the price and away we go. When I use this 2D barcode or this at the register, I'm assuming the same thing happens. I'm going to go look up the price and charge the customer. What are the other things that I could possibly do with that?
Yeah, long term, that is exactly how it's going to work. It'll go beep and it'll give you a price from that 2D code. If there's additional data in the code, let's say it is a lot number or it's an expiration date, what you can do as a retailer with upgrades to your POS system is say, nope, I'm not going to let you walk out of here because that's actually a recalled product, or that's close to expiration. There might be some dynamic pricing or something like that you might do, or don't let your customer walk out with an expired product, because there's nothing worse than getting home and seeing that my milk's expired. Hasn't
Right.
happened often, but does. And that's not delighting the customer.
Wow, that's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge. While that may sound like an inconvenience at the register, that's really, I think most people would go, I'm sorry, this one has expired. We're going to go run and get you another one
Yeah.
and take care of you. I think the first time that happens, you probably go, what are you talking about? The second time it's like, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want something that's going to expire right away. That's cool. That's cool.
I'll also just add that, there's some food regulations that are on the horizon that do require you track certain things, certain high-risk foods that might have been transformed in your commissary at the retail space, that if you, that this 2D barcode will allow you to put that lot code in the barcode. And so it will allow you to comply with some of those regulations in an efficient way.
Well, I've got two more examples that I think would be pretty powerful for you guys to help. I'm helping you market a little bit. Number one, if I'm literally scanning a unique serial number, I may not have to go have my associates mark down stuff because I just realized everything I was supposed to mark down just sold. Today, I don't know, right? In the future, I should be able to know. Here's the other one, and I just got off a call yesterday with Joe Cole, who's the vice president of asset protection at Macy's, and he's leading the way with RFID and the whole idea of leveraging RFID with asset protection. But still, the industry is comparing what did I sell at a UPC or G1014 level to what all left the store at a serial number level. So let's give you an example. 5 pairs of blue jeans left the store. I'm sorry, were sold at the register, but 10 left the store.
Yeah.
So obviously 5 got stolen, but which 5 got stolen versus which, I can't tell you. So somebody comes in and returns one. Was that one that was bought, or was that the one that was stolen? I don't know. So to me, this next level of asset protection is actually comparing the serialized G10 at the register to the serialized G10 at the exit. Well, guess what? RFID can't really do that very well, or it can, but it potentially would get overreads of other stuff in the area because you didn't get everything. If you start to leverage that and have the same RFID serialization in the tag that's on the label, you can actually pull those things together.
Yeah, I'll give you another one. Is in addition to theft, another form of that is returns fraud. And we've all been, where they scan your product and then they scan a sticker and they put the sticker on your pair of shoes. When you get to marrying that serialized RFID tag, that serialized G10, you put that into a 2D code. Now I can capture that at point of sale. And like, you're right, there are RFID point of sale systems, but that's a CapEx expense as well. And so this is another way to capture that at point of sale. So I know I can prevent returns fraud, which is huge in the apparel and general merchandise
100%.
space.
Well, here's the other great news about this, but it's also a complexity. Everybody's looking for that single solution. I just want a scanner-based solution. I just want a computer vision-based solution. I just want an RFID solution. The reality is, at least I've been around long enough to know, I don't think there is a silver bullet. I think it's going to be how do we can get those to work together. Because if I can scan it at a register with a scanner, obviously 2D barcode, and that 2D barcode actually matches the serialized number that's embedded in the tag, I can link them together, but they would be different data captures, but it's still pointing to the same thing, right?
Absolutely. And I wholeheartedly agree. I always say, like, it's not an either or, it's a bunch of ands. Yeah. And listen, machine vision and where technology is evolving is super amazing, right? I always go back to, how do you tell the organic banana from the regular banana? They're both bananas. Yeah. And the machine doesn't know. I mean, and so that's my question every time I go. So it is a bunch of ands put together to give you a solution that will solve all of the problems. Yep. And it's up to us. And that's where standards become super important, right? It still should rely on that unique identification in whatever data capture mechanism, whatever sensor you've got going on, to whatever level of granularity you want to identify the thing to solve your business problem. And the business problems we're trying to solve become more and more complex, which is what requires granular identification, and put into the appropriate data carriers, you can begin to unlock all of the value.
Wiliot's visibility platform connects the digital and physical worlds using IoT pixels, battery-free smart tags that push data to the cloud in real time without human intervention. Their mission is to make every single thing an agent of change, enabling ambient IoT by adding intelligence and automation to food, apparel, packaging, pharmaceuticals, and other products. Learn more at wiliot.com.
So you guys call this Sunrise 2027. But 2027, that's several years away. I don't have to worry about that. The reality, we retailers and suppliers need to be thinking about that now and implementing things now. Where is the industry really on the, maybe not the full adoption of this, but are you getting a lot of queries? There aren't any specific examples, but queries from retailers and suppliers, so they're working on it now to be ready for 2027?
Yeah, so we, GS1, have spent several years working in the lab, right? And doing lab testing on reading 2D barcodes at point of sale with bioptic scanners, with handheld scanners to ensure that we don't break anything by the move to this 2D barcode, that things don't ring up twice if there's two barcodes on there, which there will be for a period of time, that things can still go quickly because the whole point of the barcode was to speed up checkout. So we don't want to introduce this whiz-bang barcode and then everything slows down. We certainly don't want to do that. So we spent a lot of time in the lab testing that and got it to the right point. All of the scanner manufacturers were part of that to get it to acceptable levels. And now we have retail partners that are testing. Now they are testing in small scale pilots at the moment, but they are doing that with real world product. You will find product on the shelf at a grocery store that has a QR code with a GS1 Digital Link and the UPC code and other data in it today. There are products out there that the brands have started marking with that. I expect that next year will bring us some real life implementations of 2D barcodes in store for sure.
Awesome. So I would imagine that it's not just the point of sale systems, because in a lot of retailers, we have these personal shoppers, BOPIS, whatever you want to call it, but people shopping on behalf of shoppers.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming anything I'm using to actually deliver a customer order, even if it's a handheld device, has to be able to read that QR code or that GS1 data link as well, right?
Yes, for sure. What's interesting about that and that particular, when you've got somebody else buying your groceries for you or whatever it might be, there could be minor variations in a product, right? And but it still has the same G10. It's a minor variation. Maybe it's a Messi bag of chips, meaning Lionel Messi versus Ronaldo, I guess. I'm not a soccer person, sorry. I should have used football. American football. I'm getting it all wrong here, Mike. But that might be what you want to purchase. Maybe you're having a birthday party for your kid and he's a Messi fan. And so there's another piece of data that we call label variant or consumer product variant that could distinguish this bag of Messi chips from Ronaldo bag of chips. And so that can also be put in this 2D code. And that would serve that guy that's picking it. I don't want this, just any bag of chips. I want that bag of chips. While it still has the same UPC code, it has this slight variation on it. And so, it allows you to fulfill orders to exactly what I put in my basket online.
Gena, this has been incredibly helpful. Thank you so much for this. Where do people go if they want more information? If this has piqued their interest and they're interested in finding out more, where can they go within GS1 to find out more information about this?
Sure. So our webpage, gs1us.org, Sunrise 2027, give it a search there and you will find some stuff, but also Sunrise 2027 at gs1us.org is an email that you could send us a note and tell us are interested in learning more. And I've got a whole team ready to talk to you.
Yeah, it's perfect. All right. My favorite question for the end of these. What did I not ask you that I should have? What's on your mind of something that we should have talked about, but I didn't ask you about? Or if you just have any other closing comments that you want to make.
I would just say, I think you hit on it at the beginning. And actually though, when you think about it, 2027 is like tomorrow. At least when you get to be my age, it goes pretty fast, but you should start now. And we do anticipate a transition. There will be a time where there will be the 1D barcode and the 2D barcode on pack. And if a brand never wants to realize the benefits of what a 2D barcode can bring, that's cool. They could keep the 1D barcode. You can keep the UPC. We're not mandating that at this point. All standards are voluntary anyway, but you should get started now though, and make your plan. And I would suggest identifying the stakeholders within your organization. If you're a brand, that might be your brand marketing team. And oddly, we don't talk enough to the brand marketers. When you think about what we're doing here, it is going to free up a lot of space on pack. And that should be a brand marketer's dream. It is also going to allow you to serve up a consumer experience in a way that you can't do today. Also a brand marketer's team. But then there's operations and supply chain, all those other folks. So really starting to explore what this means for you and what it can unlock, and putting your teams together for the brand. That's what I recommend now. From a retailer perspective, it's really getting in touch with your scanner manufacturers and your POS host systems to start to prepare the ability to read. In most cases, I would say, Mike, 90% in our research, about 90% of retailers have optical scanners today. That's the number one requirement, by the way. Yep. You have to have an optical scanner in order to read and process a 2D barcode. And then there's some firmware upgrades and some software changes that you need to make so that you can read it. It won't beep twice. You can read it fast and all those sorts of things. So it's really important to get started now and start to make your plan. And we will help prepare you for 2027 and the sunrise. Like you said, it's not a sunset. It is a sunrise. And it could be a gradual sunset. Like John Phillips always says, it's not like this beam of light at you. It's a slow sunrise. And so we want to make sure that industry is prepared for that.
Well, Gena, I can't thank you enough for spending some time on this. And I give you guys credit. And that credit didn't always exist. When I was working in the very early 80s around EDI implementations, it felt like GS1 was just lagging. We'd have to go, hey, we're ready to do EDI for advanced shipment notifications. Oh, we got to create a standard for that. How about electronic funds transfer? So you were there, but you were always blagging a little bit. Now you guys are way out front. You've done the research. You know where the industry's going. There's nothing better than having standards. And I would argue that you don't have to adopt standards, but that's like saying you really need to drive on the right side of the road in the United States, not the left side. You can drive on the left side. Doesn't work very well. But you're figuring out the way that things happen, and they all have a standard way. And I think you guys, just the way you're thinking about, this whole moving to serialized data with a scanner base like GS1 Digital Link, you're way ahead of the industry. You're going to create capability that people will start to take advantage of. It'll seem like it's taken a long time, and it is, but it's already there. It's not like we've got to be screaming at GS1, we need standards for this. So thank you guys for doing that. And I know you also have a huge marketing job ahead of you. You got a lot of people to tell the story. Hopefully this podcast is a very small step towards that. But I want to thank you for that. You enjoy your vacation, deserve it. And anything else that you want to say before we close out?
Yeah, I do want to. I appreciate the kind words about GS1 and how we have evolved over the years. I've been there for a lot of the decades that we've done that, but we're created by industry and governed by industry. So a lot of credit goes to industry being willing to charge us with looking ahead and around the corner and trusting us to do that. So thanks to all of our industry partners as well. But we are excited about that future.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. Have a great vacation, and hey, I hope to hear 2025. We're going to hear success stories about 2027. How about that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you'll have me back because I love being on a podcast with you, Mr. Green.
Awesome. I enjoyed it as well, Gena. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.